Welcome to One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer, just like the shirt says. Want to thank you all for joining us. I am your ever gracious host, Vincent, and this is the guy who just needs more energy. I wish I had a co-host that had some energy, but I'm stuck with JJ, who was like, droopy dog. That's the energy level we get there. So do want to encourage you to like us on Facebook, follow us on X. You can contact us through onecard1cup1beer@gmail.com. You can subscribe to our page, those of you who are on Mac or PC, by clicking on the icon at the bottom right corner. Or if you're watching this on TV, at the end of the video, you just go to our icon, highlight it, click it, and you will be subscribed. You can support us through Patreon. Just search Patreon. Go to Patreon and search for One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer, and you will find us. And you can support our efforts financially, and we would be greatly appreciative of that. Real quick, let me move this.
Yeah.
This is our second Cub. Guess the Cub. JJ did not get it. No, but he knows who it is now. But I want to let you know, even though you may not recognize the picture, this guy has been discussed recently on this show. Very recently on this show. Discussed. Compared
Clue
to
number one.
Gamble. So played with the Cubs in the 70s. So, and I do want to remind you that we are taking just a running tally all through the off season. When I have a Cub up here, you submit your guess. The first one to get the guess right, you will get a tally. And at the end of spring training, whoever has the most tallies are going to win a prize package, which will include the official One Cardinal, One Cup, One Beer coffee mug. There's our mugs on both sides of that. You will get the water bottle, the 500 milliliter water bottle with the story that we drop almost every Wednesday by noon. So you'll always know when we're dropping. You should know if you're subscribed to it. You're also going to get, I'm excited about this because we just got this, the official One Cardinal, One Cup, One Beer license plate. It has absolutely no legal power or anything. So if you put it on your car, I don't know if you get pulled over. I know some states you can have just the back plate on. I don't know how that works because I'm old and I don't like learning new things. But also you will get a One Cardinal, One Cup Beer, the official shirt. We do have another shirt that one of our gracious listeners has made up for JJ, me, and Maxwell has one. But that's not the official shirt. We're very grateful for that. But I can't ask someone that I really don't know, hey, would you make us like 1 million shirts? So we are coming out with our official shirt. And I guess not the grand prize, the creme de la creme of this prize package is you will get 2 tickets to a Cardinal game, and we're going to try to make it a Cardinal Cub game. And how good the suits are going to be is based upon how much Patreon money that we pick up. So like I told JJ, you could either be sitting nosebleed or you could have your own suite. It depends on how much of this we get from our Patreons.
That's like $500 value right there.
Oh yeah, it's like $5 million value. This thing
love it.
Cost me $2,000. It's like amazing,
man.
How much stuff is worth.
I wouldn't put that on your car in Milwaukee. They don't really like us there, the Cardinals and the Cubs. We're not very popular in the brewer country.
Yeah, that's right. I do want to let you know about something. I alluded to it last week, talked about it a little bit, but I'm going to give you the specifics. This Saturday at the AmVets in DeSoto, Missouri, and I'm promoting this because not only is a friend of mine on and another guy that I just absolutely love, but also because we have a lot of listeners in the Jefferson County area, and DeSoto is not far. But this Saturday at the AmVets, that's 1075 AmVet Drive, in DeSoto. There's going to be a comedy show, and it will be headlined by Larry Reeb. A lot of people know him as Uncle Lair. He's been around for since the 80s, and he is just a tremendously hilarious man. I've had the privilege of working with him, and I've seen him on a few other occasions. In fact, my wife and I, our very first date, I took her to a Larry Reeb show, and she still married me, which was amazing. But the amazing Carolyn Agnew is going to be featuring, and a good friend of JJ and mine's, Jerry Wall, is also going to be doing a guest spot. Jerry's kind of put this show together, and Jerry's just tremendously funny. So the doors open at 5:30. There will be finger foods, and the show starts at 7. So it's not a late night. They do have a bar there. Tickets are $20. You can pick those up at the AmVets, or you can go to PayPal at AmVets Post 48, Missouri. PayPal at AmVets Post 48, Missouri, MO. And I'll have that on the screen when I go to edit. Tickets, if you wait until the day of the show, you have to get tickets at the door, and that'll be $25. So it saves you a little bit of money if you get the tickets in advance. And I know it's short notice. You're going to be listening to this on Wednesday, and then that's Saturday. But if you have nothing else to do, or if you have something else to do, or if you have something really important to do, just put that off. If you got your kid's wedding or something like that, put it off, man. You go to this. Where's your priorities? But I did want to just go ahead and push that and let people know that it will be a good time, and you will laugh your donkey off. So, JJ.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question.
Well, I'll do my best.
The San Francisco Giants interviewed Alyssa Nakin, who's been on their coaching staff, for their managerial position.
Okay.
This morning I get up, and Kim Eng, who's the general manager, been the general manager of the Marlins for the last 3 years, she resigned. There was some kind of a problem with the owner hiring a new vice president of player operations or something. Something rubbed her the wrong way. There was a miscommunication or something, but she resigned. I cannot remember in my life ever having a story about two separate women in management positions in Major League Baseball history. It's like these two, we've talked about the role of women, and we had Shannon Logan on here to discuss that. We've talked about the increasing role of women, but by golly, wasn't it just serendipitous that suddenly at the same time you have one who's getting an opportunity possibly, and one who's having to step down? I don't think Kim Eng's gender has anything to do with her stepping down. I really do believe that there's some kind of an issue there that doesn't have to do with gender. But it's just a kind of a great time for women in baseball right here, this microcosm, that they're focused on two different stories about women in management positions. What are your thoughts?
I think that's fantastic. The times are changing, and coaching and managing, it just seems to get bigger and bigger. I remember you used to get a baseball card in the 70s and to be the manager and like 4 coaches. Well, now there's people in the video part of it, all the statistical aspects of it. It's just a bigger thing, and baseball's international now. There's people from all over the world coming in, and you're right. I have not heard a story. Every once in a while you would see somebody might get a tryout, but that would be about it. But in management, I hadn't heard anything, and coaching. So it's growing. And I know women's softball is getting huge as well. And I think the Mets hired a coach in uniform in the minors, and she's working her way up through the minor leagues too. So there's been like 3 stories like that. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think her gender had anything to do with her leaving the Marlins. I know Derek Jeter was there
She's
for a
done a
while.
great job.
Great job. Some tough decisions that she traded that pitcher for a rise, who won the AL batting title, and that pitcher has been fantastic. It was a good trade for everybody. That's a good trade. Made the team
Yeah,
better. Did a
and
real good job.
the goal of a trade is not to screw the other team. It's not. And any general manager will tell you that. That happens sometimes. You make a trade and one of the players just doesn't work out. The goal is for both teams to improve themselves because they're both filling a need. And that may be the most even trade in the past 10, 15 years. Because Lopez in particular had a tremendous second half. If it's not for him, the Twins do not
You're
make
right.
it to the playoffs. And Arise just had a phenomenal year, won another batting title. So I she's done a great job. That was a great trade, and I'm sure she's gonna land on her feet with another organization. And as far as Alyssa Nakken goes, I don't know if she's a serious candidate. Um, I would hate to think that they're doing the NFL thing where the NFL just okay, we're gonna have our token minorities, but we really want so and so. Which there's something screwed up with that system too. Well, too, I'm not saying the system is screwed up, but there's something screwed up with the NFL system that they need to fix somehow. But anyway, if she does get the job as manager, I think that would be, first of all, there's probably going to be a lot of fans, and I will say older fans, and I'm an older fan, but there's going to
Me
be a lot
too.
of older fans that are our age that are just this is going to be too much of a shock to their system. But younger people, you look at other sports and you see coaches all the time who are women in men's sports. You see a lot of men coaches in women's sports.
Yeah.
That's common. I mean, in college basketball, women's college basketball, the big rivalry for decades was Pat Summitt at Tennessee and
Yeah.
Gino Arrietto at Connecticut. Um, no one batted an eye at that. I think the day is coming in all sports where we're going to see more females. And baseball is a game where the knowledge it takes to be a good strategist for softball is the same knowledge that it takes to be a good strategist for baseball. But more and more and more and more and more, the manager has to be someone who can relate to the players.
Yes.
And if she can do that, hey, maybe she's got a really good shot at this.
I'm excited, and I think it could bring a whole new as people who might have been on the outside on baseball, just kind of, you know, novice fans, bring them in more closely to see what's going on. I think that would be great. Uh, and it's like a hero, someone, if she could do it, maybe I could do it too. And it's just get the very best of the very best involved in the game. So I'm all for it. And I'm excited. It's a good time for baseball right now. I like most of the rule changes. I do like the American League and the National League. I like the differences a little bit, but now it's just one big league. I don't know what, and they're talking about some other big changes coming. But as far as the players, I think we're seeing some of the best baseball we've ever seen. Some of these players today are so athletic. It's fun. This has been a good time to be a baseball fan.
No, I agree. I I did not like the steroid era because this is my philosophy. When I was growing up, hitting a home run was a special thing done
Right.
by special players who were the best. Um, and when we got to the point where Brady Anderson's hitting 50 home runs and you know
That's a good call.
guys are hitting I think one year the average player was hitting almost 30 home runs. That was like the average. And that it was arena baseball, to coin a term
It
from the
sure was.
90s. And
10 to
and
8. That's just crazy. All the
yeah,
time it's like 9-7, 10-8 games.
Yeah. I like where it is now. I like how the game is. I do miss pitchers pitching complete games, but I'm a realist. Those days are over. Uh, I saw a post where someone was talking, I wish we had the days of Koufax when he pitched so many innings, and someone astutely brought up, well, Koufax was washed up by 32, though. You know, remember, there were players, there have always been players who pitched to into their 40s. Those are the outliers. Most players,
Right.
their bodies just can't handle that. And you see a lot of baseball's just littered with people who were really good until injuries set in their late 20s, early 30s, and yeah, that was it. So,
And,
oh,
and
I
then you've
also
got
want
the
to
guys that there's no ex. Oh,
go
you got
ahead.
guys that there's no explanation for. Nolan Ryan, what was that? That was a. I can't. He defies everything. He pitched uh complete games, 13, 14 innings, striking out all those guys and played all those years. Uh Walter Johnson, same thing. Some of these power pitchers, and then you got guys that kind of became more of they were fireballers and then they become pitchers. And I think that's the same percentage of pitchers that did that. But Vince, one thing I like about these playoffs when we get talking about the playoffs is these Dusty and the Rangers coach Bochy made decisions that I think sometimes they would have said, it's time to get him out of there. And he lets those pitchers work through tough situations. I don't know if it's because they don't trust the middle of the bullpen, but I've really enjoyed the playoffs with these pitchers going a little bit further into the games. When they're on it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I one other thing I want to bring up. I don't watch a whole lot of baseball pregame shows during the playoffs because they drive me crazy. I'm not an A-Rod fan. Um, I but I did have it on, I think yesterday's game, and they had A-Rod and they had Jeter, who did not get along.
No,
And sitting in the middle was Big Poppy, which
you
I
gotta
thought
love
was
Poppy.
funny. So,
Yeah.
so play nice. We're gonna stick this guy in the middle of you who's basically taken a bullet the last few years and survived. So
Oh
uh,
yeah.
it just seems to me like the pregame shows for baseball, they're trying to replicate the success of the NBA pregame shows when they do that. And I understand the pregame shows for NBA basketball. I will watch the pregame shows because Charles Barkley and Shaq and Kenny Walker they entertain me, and then I won't watch the game. You know,
Right. Same here.
the opposite
Same
with
here.
baseball. I don't care about the pregame show. I want to see the game.
Well, Vince, how do you feel about this? They've got a thing now they do, which you've got all these players and managers, and you can talk to them before the game, you can talk to them after the game. But sometimes some in the third inning, they're standing there on the front thing and talking to the manager while the game's going on. I don't like that. You've had all this time to ask the questions, and usually it's something like, how do you feel about his performance today? They could ask that after the game. Get your questions in and out. And once the game starts, it's baseball time. I don't care for that at all.
Yeah, and I don't like when a player hits a home run and the next thing you know, there's a reporter in the dugout. Uh, what did you hit? A baseball. Yeah, I know you're saying what pitch did I hit, but um,
I'm with you.
I know they can't do that. There are strict rules. This is a part of the game now. You have to participate. That's just the way it is now. But I'm with you. I kind of like leave them alone. Let them play the game.
Just play the game. Yeah. It's
Uh, anyway, anything going on in Cardinal land?
No, there's rumors. The Cardinals are interested in this. Basically, this is it, guys. The Cardinals are interested in anybody who can pitch. All right. Let's just get it out of the way. I think if we can just get I'm talking just the third couple, two, three starter number threes, we'll have a better rotation than we did this year. That's the big talk. I think the Cardinals are probably going to have to go the trade route because I'm telling you what, I know the Mets are going to come hot and heavy, and some of these big teams, the Dodgers didn't spend a whole lot of money last year. I think they're saving that money up for Otani. It's going to be a crazy offseason. But as for the Cardinals, I'm a realist. We'll probably end up with, guys that are like number threes on a good pitching staff. Uh, I can see it be Matz, Michaelis, uh, Zach Thompson, and a couple of guys that's probably better than them, which doesn't take a whole heck of a lot. But that's the big thing. And probably getting a little bullpen help. But we're probably going to trade. Going to have to trade some outfielders and some of those middle infielders because we got too many, and make a decision on who we're going to keep. And I mean, I've heard things about Cease and Bieber and Glass now, those kind of names in trades. We'll see. I'm always get disappointed though. I try not to get my hopes up too much. But in Cardinal news, that's about it right there. It's just as soon as the season's over, boy, the Cardinals are going to come at it. I'll tell you this. I doubt if we make a move before Christmas. That's just how we are. There'll just be a lot of negotiating and talking, and then it seems like when the top free agents go, then the dominoes start falling, and then the Cardinals get some scrap somewhere. But that's it in Cardinal news, guys.
Someone big has to sign to set the market, and then everything falls from there. I've seen some reports of the possibility of Yachty coming back on the coaching staff. Do you think those are credible or?
Possibly. I think he tries to stay away this year because, keep the attention off of him. But it was great when he came back for Wayno's thing, and it was just a big heartwarming thing. And I do see him in part of baseball coming back in some capacity. And I hope it's with the Cardinals. And I don't know what he would be, though. Just working with the catchers, or would he be a bench coach? That would be a good spot for him, a bench coach. He has a lot of respect amongst his older teammates. So that would be awesome,
Yeah, I don't see him starting as a bench coach because your bench coach is basically the guy who's thinking about the details that the manager isn't thinking about, and kind of being that sounding board. Hey, you need. So I would think he'd need some seasoning somewhere else. It's almost easier to step in and be a manager than it is a bench coach, I think.
You're right. A bench coach usually is a guy who has a lot of experience. Don Zimmer, I think of as a great bench coach
Yeah.
right there. Managed a bunch of times, and now the day-to-day thing, he just concentrated on being a sounding board for the manager. So yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, he might be manager. We'll see what happens here.
That's kind of what I'm. Ali's coming back and everything like that, but if Yachty says, I want to be manager, what are you going to say? No.
It'd be very popular with the fans, though. He's so popular.
There are a few things happening in Cub news. The Cubs are scouting Yuki Matsui from Japan. He is a closer. He has 236 career saves in the Japanese league. His fastball sits at about 96. He has a slider, a splitter, a change, a cutter, a curveball to go along with the fastball. He's a 6-pitch pitcher who's a closer. Now, in the States, they like the closer to be basically a 2-pitch pitcher. And I don't know if when he got here, they would say, hey, you need to consolidate. We're going to fastball split or whatever, fastball cutter split. I don't know. But in Japan, he's thrown 6 pitches, and his ERA has been sub-2 the last 3 or 4 seasons, and he's only 28. So the Cubs have scouted him. They've scouted Yamamoto. So they're spending quite a bit of time and resources looking at these Japanese stars. And, like I said, we already got Suzuki. We're going to be pursuing Otani. Maybe all this will work in our favor. I don't know.
Look at you smiling. I see that smile on your face. You're getting excited. I can tell.
Yeah. In the updated rankings of prospects, the Cubs have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the top 100. number 18 PCA, number 21 Cade Horton, who should be pitching for the Cubs next year. I don't know if he'll start with the Cubs big league team, but he's certainly got, he's the guy they're comparing to Mark Pryor. So
Wow.
Owen Cassie, who we got from in the Yu Darvish trade from the Padres. I don't see him. I see him as being trade bait because he's a big slugger and he's an outfielder, and our outfield positions are kind of locked up for the future. So he may be trade bait. Number 46, Kevin Alcantara, the Puma.
Oh, yeah.
He was also an outfielder, but I see us holding on to him because he's more of what I would call a 5-tool player than Owen Casey is. And number 51, our first round draft pick from last year, Matt Shaw, third baseman. And I foresee us doing this. I foresee us maybe re-signing Candelario or going a different route with an older third baseman for a 2-year contract, just to hold the position until Matt Shaw, they think he's ready. So I think they see Matt Shaw as a third baseman of the future. So I don't see them going all out to get someone and signing them like Matt Chapman or something. I think they'll probably Candelario re-sign him for a couple years. So that's kind of what I see. But what do I know? The Cubs did fire 2 coaches. They fired Chris Young, the bullpen coach, because it's his fault that they got no bullpen help at the trade deadline. Yep. He went right up to management and said, "Don't you dare trade for bullpen help. I like my boys with their 4.5, 5 ERAs." And so he got fired for that. And Craig Driver got fired. He's the game's strategy coach. JJ, if you got a strategy coach, what in the hell does the manager do today?
It sounds like you're just the scapegoat. You're a guy who's got you get to eat at the buffet and sit on the bench and you have a uniform. And when things go wrong, hey, it's the strategist coach. That seems like a job that you're kind of hanging on by a thread right there. I didn't know there was such a thing, Vince. Strategist coach. Yeah, I thought it was the manager.
Yeah, I thought that was the manager. And it seems to me they fired this guy. They didn't like the strategies of the game, apparently, because they fired him. That should be the manager. What do managers do today? They have a bench coach telling them this. They don't set the strategy for the game. They got a strategy coach. Do they just do press conferences? Do they just do the pep talks? I don't know.
Man, it's a different world, Vince. It's a different world.
Could you imagine if Tony La Russa, they said, "Hey, we want to get you a strategy coach."
He would have went right on Channel 2 and said,
"Yeah, there would have been the explicits flying there."
Whitey Herzog, Leo DeRocher. Can you imagine that?
Oh gosh,
golly,
just ridiculous. So anyway,
Billy Martin, he would have went down there and chewed his butt. He would have chewed his butt all the time.
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh, Earl Weaver, all the great old crotchety, grumpy guys. Oh yeah, that just wouldn't have worked. So anyway, apparently we're gonna hire another one. I don't know. Maybe the manager should try to do that. I don't know. Anyway, that's Cub news. Let's jump into the playoffs. Since the last time, we have had Houston take out Minnesota. And in fact, last week when we were recording, Houston was playing Minnesota. They dropped them 9-1 like a bad habit. Christian Javier, 5 innings of 1-hit baseball. Jose Abreu hit 2 home runs. And I remember the first half of the season, that guy was terrible. I was thinking, I'm so glad the Cubs did not sign him. He was terrible. But what did he do? He went out there, hit 2 home runs. They beat the Twins. They beat Sonny Gray. They won the series. And I was glad the Twins finally won a few playoff games, got out of the first round. And it was a good showing for a team in the Central who, maybe the weakest division of baseball. So I was a little happy about that. What do you think about the Twins playoff performance this year?
Well, I think they should fire their strategist coach. You got to get rid of that guy. It was his
That's
fault right there. All right. Yeah. I'm telling you what I love about this time of year is, like you said, Abreu. Uh, they're a great, the Astros, great team. Abreu didn't really live up to the billing he had, but it's such a good team. He sort of just set in the lineup. And then when you get to this time of year down the stretch, you can become a legend. I mean, David Freese, that year he had that great stretch. He had an okay year, but during the playoffs, just magic happened. And
Bucky effing Dent.
Bucky effing did the home run over the Munster. That team was loaded, but it was Bucky did that put the nail in the coffin. So you just never know. And now he's coming around, and they've got that kid, uh, Alvarez. What is going on with this guy? I mean, he's smoking balls. They're not even coming down. They're hitting the back of the stadium, and this kid has just been something special. He had a decent year, but in the playoffs, he's Ted Williams. I don't know what's going on. A legendary state.
Why are they pitching to him?
I know the Cardinals, David Ortiz. I don't know.
Well, I thought.
Yeah, I can't believe it. And there's a part of baseball too. It's mano a mano. Oh, this guy ain't that good. I'll be the guy that shows you how to get him out. Well, right now, nobody's getting him out. And I'm with you, Vince. Don't pitch to him. The Twins did good. It was good for their fans. They broke that cursed little stretch they had going on. But I just thought the Astros were too much for them.
Yeah, just too
And
much.
Dusty Baker, icing on the cake. And there is people, the people going to Hall of Fame. You got people who invent things. You got owners. You got managers. But I think coaches are a big part of the game as well. Like Dave Duncan. Because I'm a Cardinal fan, I think of Dave Duncan. But Tony La Russa will tell you part of his success was because Dave Duncan was always his pitching coach, and he could get the most out of his pitchers. I think of Leo Mazzoni, but Mike Maddox, everywhere he goes, he seems to get the pitching staffs get better. And he's a guy I think the fans should appreciate a little more, because you really don't see him except walk out on the mound and cover his mouth and then pat the guy on the shoulder and talk to him. But everywhere he's gone, the pitching staffs have gotten better. And he's done a great job with the Rangers this year. So you probably have some Cub coaches too that's been there just in the game forever. And I think the Hall of Fame should kind of a spotlight or reward some of these lifers that have just been. Charlie Lau with his the hitting instructor that was known for George Brett and Wade Boggs, and some of these coaches. I always think of Charlie Lau because he had that. Every guy who worked with him had that stance like Brett, where they were back on that back foot and the bat was back a little bit more. Boggs and Brett were the two big successful ones. Anyway, I digress, but some of these coaches, if you see them on the side and you see a lot of success year after year after year, Leo Mazzoni, but he had gold chippers on that team. The Braves pitching coach all those years with Avery and Lee Brandt and all those guys. So I just kind of like to spotlight some of those guys, and because you always think of Dusty Baker and Bochy and Ross and Ollie. Well, Ross and Ollie, that's a little different. But anyway, but I've been loving these playoffs, Vince, and there's some players that came out of nowhere. What did you think of the Phillies? The Phillies were a good team all year, but it just seems like they're just clicking at the right time. And that pitching has been phenomenal. They're a three-headed monster with Suarez and Wheeler and Nola. That their ERAs are all sub 2.37 is I think the highest of any of those ERAs throughout all the rounds in the playoffs. And then of course Trey Turner and Harper and I can't say his name, Castellanos, that hit 5 home runs in 3 days. Golly, yeah. My gosh. And that Philly fan base is it's incredible to watch a game in Philadelphia right now. You've been like a nut series going on?
I have. They easily disposed of the Dodgers. and uh, they may be the team, and then I just don't want to count out the Diamondbacks.
They're
I
some
know they got
fighters.
beat last night. Yeah, speaking of leaving pitchers in a little longer, they left Gallen in pretty long. Fifth inning and maybe into the sixth when he was getting hit pretty good.
And they
But
didn't really have us last night.
when you got a 7 game series, you can afford to do that in the early games. Let a pitcher eat up a few more innings, even if he's losing. Um, but yeah, Phillies they should repeat. As far as the kind of winners in the
Eh,
National League, I do like the
Diamondbacks almost
Rangers.
came back.
What's that?
Yeah. Well, the Diamondbacks almost came back. They're a
Yeah,
battling group, and
yeah.
I think
I
they're
I
doing
don't think that
everything they got.
series is over. I
Right.
really don't. I think that um, I like their young talent. First baseman Christian Walker is
Oh, he's good.
dynamite.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that the rookie
Corbin Carroll.
Carroll is great.
He's playing beyond his years. He's done great all year, stealing bases. He's as a rookie, he's like a leader of the team. He's like the spark plug on that team. And we may be seeing something pretty special here developing with this
Yeah.
kid. Yeah.
Marte's always been great, but he's kind of
Yes,
overlooked a lot.
you're right.
Um, they feel like it's nobody's business. So I just don't think that's over. I One thing about the Phillies that boy Trey Turner I thought was a better defensive shortstop.
Oh,
He hasn't impressed me when I watched him through these playoffs as far as his fielding goes. Castellanos may be one of the worst left fielders of our generation, or right fielders as far as fielding. So the Phillies are not a perfect team. They do have their holes. So that's why that's going to be a series. What did you think about the Rangers easily disposed of the Orioles, and Nathan Eovaldi is pitching his head off right now?
oh,
What did you think of the I said the Phillies took care of the Dodgers. I meant the Braves. Gosh, I hate getting old. Um, I know my Google Home is not set up yet. I'm being talked to by my Google that I need to set her up. Um, what do you think about the Rangers and how briskly they've run through these playoffs? And Eovaldi did not have his best stuff, and they got that 5-0 lead last night, and then the Brewers just chipped away until nothing. But of course, did I say the Brewers? I meant
you
the
said
Astros. Did the Astros hit 4 solo home runs or 3?
I thought they hit three. I thought they hit three, but I'm not sure. I honestly can't say.
Yeah, I know they hit. I think it was 3. They hit. When you out homer a team, you think you're going to win, but they didn't, and that's what a great pitcher like Evaldi will do. If you're going to get me, you're going to get me with the bases empty. I'm not giving up the 3-run home run, and that's one of the advantages of having a veteran. They know how to bear down whenever the traffic gets on base. So,
You
um,
know, I was a big fan of Catfish Hunter, and Catfish Hunter hardly walked anybody. He would challenge everybody, and he would give up 2 home runs a game, but they would be solo blasts. And he was hugely successful and just a great pitcher. Kids out there, if you don't know much about Catfish Hunter, which is by the way one of the greatest nicknames ever, watch him with the Oakland A's in the early 70s. Fantastic. Evaldi's had moments in his career where he's an ace, dominant. He's had some injuries throughout his career, but when he's on, he's as good as anybody. And it seems like, again, Mike Maddox, he's down there working with these guys, I think getting the most out of them. And Vince, sometimes things are just meant to be. Sometimes, no matter how hard you play or how much talent you have, sometimes this other team just, there's something about them. the eighth guy in the lineup gets the big hit. There's somebody takes the extra base and they're just safe. Everything just seems to be working. Bochy still's using Chapman, who's just kind of a shell of his when he was at his very best, but he's going out there battling, giving up some home runs, solo blasts, but he's not quite the same guy he used to be. But this Leclerc kid at the end, they used him for 4 outs for a save the other night. He gets unnoticed because just a couple years ago, the Rangers were losing 100 games a year, like the Orioles, and people weren't really noticing the team. But Leclerc was always one of the better relievers. He just didn't get much of an opportunity. And this team just seems to be gelling. They have a kid that came up at the end of the year named Evan Carter. And Vince, he's hitting 350, but he's playing left field like Paul Blair or something. He's jumping on the wall, grabbing balls, doubling up people at first base. He's just a spark plug. This kid came out of nowhere. What a story. I don't know what kind of career he's going to have, but man, at the moment, he's probably the toast of the town. They've also got Corey Seager at shortstop seems to really be.
He's unconscious right now.
And they just absolutely love him. And the Dodgers and were a team that's just so good, and they had so many pitching problems. They faded, but this Ranger team, a young team. Now, did they play Baltimore in the last round? Was it the Orioles and the Rangers?
Yes.
I was surprised how fast they took out the Orioles. The Orioles are going to be dangerous for years to come, and I just thought, man, this could be the team. But the Rangers are steady Eddie. They're getting great, and they're getting Max Scherzer back tonight or tomorrow night. And if Max Scherzer, he's going to go out there. They're going to have to drag him off the mound. He's going to give you everything he's got. And if Scherzer is anything close to what he can do, oh man, that's a tough threesome coming at you right there.
Yeah, Simeon hadn't hit until last night, so he's starting to hit. This is what you need to know about the Rangers and why they're so hot. 8th place hitter Young, the third baseman, hitting 333 in the playoffs. 9th place hitter Tavares, center fielder, hitting 348 in the playoffs. So they're hitting up and down the lineup. Other players, we've mentioned Alvarez, who's unconscious right now. I don't know why anybody's pitching to him. He's having such a great postseason run. And Abreu has shown up in the postseason, and that's been really cool to see. Corey Seager, we mentioned. The rookie Carter. And for the Phillies, you look at Harper and Castellanos right now. It's like, wow, they're carrying that team. And, pick your poison, because you also got Schwarber, you got Turner, you got Bohm, they're just a loaded lineup up and down. But also you look at the Diamondbacks, man, Corbin Carroll's having a heck of a postseason.
Oh, yes, sir.
I hope they don't run out of steam, but there's been some great performances in the playoffs so far. And I think it's been a lot of fun to watch. I've enjoyed the playoffs this year. I enjoyed them last year. I've enjoyed the playoffs more the last couple of years than I have, I don't know, previously. And it could be because I'm doing a podcast, so I'm paying a lot more attention to them. Who knows? But yeah, I like to see the individual performances and players like Carter who come out of nowhere to just.
What a story.
Here I am.
Yeah, 21 years old. Vince, one of the things I noticed that really has caught my eye is these batters, like Carter has 7 walks. Now this is all the playoffs combined that he's played in. 7 walks, 4 strikeouts. And this is against the best pitchers in baseball has. He's out there battling and getting on base and making things happen.
And he's 21. He's just 21.
Just 21. He's not. And these kids today, they don't seem like. Vince, if you took me out there when I'm 21 years old, I'm going to crap myself. I'd be overwhelmed. All these fans, especially in Philadelphia, I'd want my mom. I got to get out of here. I can't take these people calling me names and yelling at me and screaming. You can't even hear yourself think. But Corey Seager, 11 walks, 6 strikeouts. Carroll, 6 walks, 3 strikeouts. And then of course, Bryce Harper, 8 walks, 5 strikeouts. These guys are working those pitchers, getting into the bullpen. And it's just the beauty of baseball. Every at bat is like a battle. And you're wearing that pitcher out and making the defense work and finding out, it's beautiful. It's like a ballet. And man, it's been so much fun. And I can't wait to see who comes out of this. This tournament has been so much fun. The Cardinals, horrible year, but I have loved the season. And so many good things happen across the league. So that's my take on the playoffs right there.
Yeah. One more thing, one more little tidbit. Bryce Harper has now played 50 playoff games and he's hit 15 home runs. You know who the only other person who's hit 15 home runs in their first 50 postseason games are?
Babe Ruth, maybe?
Babe Ruth. Yeah.
Babe
So
Ruth, man.
he's in some elite company right there.
That may be one of the best free agent signings, one of those big free agent long signings. He is so over in Philadelphia. That's really worked out for everybody there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we jump into our spotlight, I need to take a little break, listen to a little Jeremy Connor, get myself centered in life. How about you, JJ?
Oh, there's nothing better than a little Jeremy Connor in your life.
Let's do it. Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. Oh, Jeremy, you made me happy again. What a guy.
Oh, yeah.
JJ and I are going to do a spotlight on a couple of players. And I'm going to do Riggs Stephenson. Who are you going to do, JJ?
The big man himself, Lee Smith.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
Lee
God.
Smith.
You want to go first? You want me to go first? I don't care.
I'll go first. Lee Arthur Smith,
Former Cub.
A great Cub. Matter of fact, he's in the Hall of Fame, and he's as a Cub as it should be. Played let's see how many years with those Cubbies. 8 years. 1980 to 1987, and had a 2.40 ERA and 180 saves for the Cubs. And I'm going to tell you something. This is how I feel about him. First off, when he's on the other team, I respect him. Like, oh, we got to get a lead because they got Lee Smith down in the bullpen. And when he's on your team, you're like, we only got to get through 7 innings, maybe 8. And then we got Lee Smith coming in to finish this game off. I'll get into that. But he was an imposing man. He was 6 foot, or he is, 6'6". And I got 265 pounds. That is a big man. And there's nothing about Lee Smith was never in a hurry. I don't know how he'd do with his pitch clock today. He'd lumber in there. He's from Louisiana. He'd walk out of the mound, take a deep breath, and it was no surprise. Here he comes. He'd reach back and wham, man, he'd throw that ball in there. And he was just something to see. Great career. 18 years he played, and he played with a lot of teams. I'll kind of go through this real quickly with some of the teams he was with. He was with the Cubs. And he's in the Hall of Fame with the Cubs, as it should be. He was a Red Sox for 3 years. He went from the Cubs to the Red Sox. Then he comes over here to the Cardinals, and he played 4 years with us, 90 to 93. Then he goes up to the Yankees for a year, the Orioles for a year, the Angels for 2 years, the Reds for a year, and he ended with the Montreal Expos. And yes, I said Montreal Expos. That was a team, kids out there, the Montreal Expos. I'm telling you what, I absolutely loved him. A Louisiana man. When he was with the Cardinals, though, we weren't a very good team. About 89, Augie Bush, the owner of the team, passed away. Whitey was done with it. The brewery took over the team, and they just didn't have. It was a money-making thing, and they just didn't really put a lot into the team. We were going with a bunch of young kids and older veterans that were kind of still in the league. We had like Pedro Guerrero for a little bit, Greg Jeffries, and a young team of Pagnazzi and Zeal and Bernard Gilkey and Ray Langford, people like that, hard hitting Mark Whitten. And we would always be around fourth place those 5 years. But Lee Smith was one of the Bob Tewksbury, who came out of nowhere and had a very nice career for us in those years. But Lee Smith was the big man. And Lee Smith was only here 4 years, and he is second all time in Cardinal saves, only behind Jason Isringhausen, who played a lot longer. For us, he had 160 saves and a 2.90 ERA. And 1 year, so I'm going to read off a few little stats for him. Lee was second in Cardinal history in saves, like I said, only to Isringhausen, who had Lee had 160 saves, and Isringhausen had 217. He had 10 years where he got 10 or more saves. That's dominance right there. That's fantastic. But he had 3 years where he got 40 or more saves. When he was 3-time Rolade relief pitcher of the year. I have to say that slowly so I can get that out. 3-time the best reliever in the game. He also, when he retired, he was the top guy in saves, the absolute top. He had passed Jeff Reardon, who was another Expo pitcher, who was the leader, and then Lee Smith passed him to become the leader. But since then, we've had two people pass him, Trevor Hoffman and the great Mariano Rivera. So Lee is now third place all time in saves, that's pretty good company. All those guys are Hall of Famers right there. And also in 1991, as a Cardinal, he finished second for the Cy Young, only to lose it. And that year he had 47 saves, only to come in second place to Tom Glavine, who had a monster year that year. So Lee Smith, what a career, what a year. I met him in the 90s at the Cardinals used to have a thing on Tuesday nights where they put some players out there, and you'd go through and they'd sign your cards. I had 3 cards signed by him, and it's all 3 phases of his thing. One where he's like this, one where he's like that, one where he's like that. And I got a few items. You know me, I'm a collector. I got all kinds of items. So I didn't get the cards. I wish I'd brought those cards out, but I didn't get them. But they had a Lee Smith day at the ballpark recently, and there is the Lee Smith bobblehead right there. And I'm going to tell you something. It's not too far from it. He would just take a deep breath, reach back, and just fire the ball past you. So that's the Lee Smith bobblehead. And when Vince said, "Hey, let's do a spotlight," I said, "Oh yeah, all right, perfect timing," because just this week I met Lee Smith at Westport at one of the hotels. They had a big card show, and Lee Smith was there. And so I got a bunch of stuff signed by him before I even knew we were going to do this segment. The first thing is a picture, and there's a Lee Smith right there in color. Of course, I had to get a card to one. I didn't get the other teams. And 400, and he wrote Lee Smith 478 saves. He looks good. I think he's getting near the 70-year-old age right now. He's getting up there in the years, but he still looks good. He's got that beard, but it's got some salt and pepper in it now. I have a ball signed by him, and I put some statistics on there, and that goes into my little area where I have all my baseballs. But there's Lee Smith with all of his saves, 478 saves, and he put Hall of Famer on there. So that's pretty cool. And this is the creme de la creme, Vince. The creme de la creme right here. I got a Cardinal jersey, Lee Smith, and it's authenticated, signed by Lee Smith. Right there.
Wow.
Right there. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? So I'm we're not eating this week. We're just eating cereal for supper. All right. I spent all my money on my collection. So it's kind of sad times here at the Jackson house. But Lee Smith is the guy I wanted to spotlight. And guys, if you get a chance, go watch video of him. He's just one of those guys. There's not many of them like him in baseball today. You knew all you had to do, get 24 outs, hand the ball over to Lee Smith, and 98% of the time, you're going home with a W. So that's my spotlight on the great Lee Arthur Smith.
One memory I have of Lee Smith in that 84 season when the Cubs won the division, Smith was our closer. And I don't remember who we're playing. I think it's an August game, September game. And I guess the tying run was on base. There were 2 outs in the ninth. and the hitter hit a line drive off of Lee Smith's hip, and it bounced up right to another Cub. And Harry Caray's like, God wants the Cubs to win. God wants the Cubs to win. Holy cow. Like, awesome.
Oh man, that is great. Harry Carey, one of a kind too,
Yeah.
man. Oh
But
yeah.
Lee Smith, when he first came up with the Cubs, he threw smoke. And then as he got older, he started relying more on his curveball, uh, use, using his curveball to set up the fastball, uh, which is what we call pitching backwards. When you throw hard, you use your fastball to set up your curveball, and that would be your swing and miss pitch. But he got older when the velocity went down. He pitched a lot of curveballs, and he'd sneak the fastball by you. Yeah. And very intelligent pitcher. And yeah, I always loved Lee Smith, great guy. I'm going to look at Riggs Stephenson. And being it's postseason time, Riggs Stephenson was a postseason player for the Chicago Cubs. He's kind of a forgotten postseason hero because at that time, the postseason was just the World Series, and he played in 2 World Series for the Cubs, and he was tremendous in both of them. And I'll get into that. He was born in Akron, Alabama. He originally played basketball or baseball and football at the University of Alabama. He was a quarterback and fullback for the football team. He was so good that he was all Southern fullback in 1919 and 1920. But Stevenson, he sustained a shoulder injury in a football game in 1920 when he dropped back and was tackled by a pair of linebackers, got hit, and he injured his right shoulder so bad that it put an end to his football career as a quarterback. And as a result, that affected his baseball too, because he couldn't throw accurately anymore because of the shoulder injury. Now in today's game, you get a shoulder injury, you get surgery, the necessary surgery and everything. You try to rehab it, you know. This was in the early 20s. Oh, it hurt your shoulder. Gosh, it's gonna be hard to bale hay, because you're not going to be playing football anymore. So he had that to overcome in his baseball career. So his throwing problems made it difficult for him to turn double plays because he was a middle infielder in college, and he just couldn't do that anymore. So he really had to compensate for his poor defense by becoming a great hitter, and that's what he did. He quit school at Alabama, and he immediately jumped in professional baseball. And he signed with the defending world champions, Cleveland Indians, at the age of 23. So he made his major league debut on April 13th, 1921, and he played very limited time for the Indians at that time, the Guardians now. His weak arm throwing difficulties made it very difficult for him to play second base. And in 54 games, he had 17 errors. That's Hanley Ramirez type defense there at second base. So he had to get off that position, and but they had to play him somewhere. So he played some third base, played some outfield. The reason they had to play him is because he was hitting great. He played 65 games his rookie year. He had 68 hits, including 17 doubles, and he batted .330. And that kind of became his MO. He's a .330 hitter, no matter if he can't field. So he spent 5 years in Cleveland and was a .337 lifetime hitter, but it was mostly part-time due to his fielding limitations, and he was frequently injured. So before the 26th season, he was traded to the Cubs. Well, he started playing with the Cubs in 26, spent the whole season in left field. He was a part-time player. He batted .338, 95 hits. He played just 82 games, so a little over half the season. But it was the following season, his 7th season in the majors, that was his first complete season of his career. So he's in 7 years. this is his first complete season, and he responds. He played all 100. He played 152 of the 154 games. He batted 344 with a 415 on base percentage. His average was the fourth highest in the National League that year. And he led the league in doubles with 46. He finished fifth in the league in hits and seventh in the leagues in runs scored with 101. And he placed 20th in the MVP voting. So that was kind of a breakout year. But then he had a couple more years where he just couldn't stay on the field. So fast forward to 1929, he's injury free for the first time since that 1927 season or 26 season with the Cubs. And he responds with a 362 batting average, a 445 on base percentage. And both of those were fifth highest in the league. So it was an offensive time for the league, but he finished with 17 home runs. He was never a home run hitter, but this was a lot of power for him. But he had 110 RBIs and 179 hits, and he placed 23rd in the MVP voting. So he teamed up with fellow Cubs outfielder and now Hall of Famer Kiki Cuellar and Hack Wilson, and they were the only outfield trio still, to my knowledge, in National League history to drive in 100 runs each in the season. So that outfield was very productive for the Cubs in the 1929 season. But he saved his best for the World Series in 1929. Cubs lost 4-1 to the Phillies, to the Athletics, Connie Mack's Philadelphia Athletics. But in Game 3, Riggs Stephenson set a World Series record that still holds today. He collected 6 hits in Game 3, including a double. So he does hold that record. So even though the Cubs lost 4-1, he had a very strong showing in the World Series and kind of became a star around Chicago. He was a good player. He was looked at as a player who was good, but is injured all the time. This kind of put him in celebrity status in Chicago. But after that season, he had a couple more seasons where he battled injury, and he was always, whenever he was in, he hit. And he hit well above 300 when he was in there, but he couldn't stay in. So he came back in 1932 and played another complete season, and he had the most at-bats in his career that year. He had 583 at-bats, hit 324, and he led the team with 85 RBIs. He had a career best 49 doubles, and he finished fifth in the MVP voting. The 1932 Cubs won the pennant over the Pittsburgh Pirates, but were swept by the Yankees in the World Series that featured Babe Ruth's called shot home run. So Riggs Stephenson was right there getting pointed at by the Babe, if you believe the Babe's version, but other people say he's just pointing towards the dugout because the Cubs were chirping at him. But in the World Series, he collected 8 hits. He drove in 4 runs and batted 444 for the team in the series. So he's 2 World Series with the Cubs, and he was a standout player both of those. Due to injuries, he just couldn't play anymore. 1934 was his last season. These are his career numbers, and it's kind of a sad story because this was a guy who was like George Sisler. Wasn't a great power hitter, but he was just a great pure hitter. But he just couldn't stay on the field due to a football injury. But he only had 4,508 at-bats in the major leagues, but he hit 336. Really good.
That's cool.
He had a 407 on base percentage. He had an 890 OPS. He only struck out 247 times in 4,500 at bats. So that's about a 5%. That's really, really, really good. He did great on retirement. He opened up a car dealership in Tuscaloosa, and he opened up a lumber yard in Akron, Alabama. So he had these 2 businesses, and he was one of those baseball players that, kind of gained his wealth after playing as an astute businessman. But a few of the tidbits about him, he has the highest lifetime batting average of eligible 20th century players not in the Hall of Fame. Because of his short career, only 1,310 games and only 4,508 at-bats, he was barely long enough for official recognition among career leaders. So if you take career leaders and career batting average, it's like a season. Season you have to have 502 plate appearances to be considered for the batting champion. To look at career average, you can't just say, well, this guy played 16 games and hit 402. He's the best hitter ever. Now there's a criteria, and he barely makes that criteria. The only player that is on that list above him that is not the Hall of Fame, can you guess? Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Oh,
So
wow.
um, he for the Cubs, he had a 336 career batting average, which is his major league. He was terribly consistent. His batting average for the Indians was 337. Batting average for the Cubs 336. Lifetime batting average 336. That ties my favorite player as a kid, Bill Madlock. 336 was his Cubs career batting average too. So that's pretty cool. He hit over 312 times in his career, um, in every season, but 2 in the big leagues. He had at least 300. But like I said, because of the injuries, he was mostly a part-time player. He received only a total of 8 votes when his first year of eligibility in the Hall of Fame. And the veterans ballot has passed on him a few times. He's failed to pick up any votes there, which I can't blame them. He just didn't play long enough. But Riggs Stephenson, for the old timers, like my grandfather, who was a lifelong Cub fan, he was one of their most popular players. And being they didn't win either of those World Series, he doesn't have the World Series lore of some of these other great players who were on winners. But every time he was in the World Series, man, he showed up and he gave it his all. And I just wanted to give him a little bit of recognition, because a lot of people have never even heard of him when he's one of the greatest hitters to ever play the game.
Vince, that was great. And I love the history lesson. I didn't know Rick Stevens, I'll be honest with you. And I kind of call myself a baseball historian. Thank you so much. And I'm gonna pay attention from now on and look, keep him in mind and look up some stuff on him. Fantastic. That's what I like about this. We learn. It's nice to learn about these players. I've kind of picked an easy one, Lee Smith, but that was a great one, man. Woo.
Well, and I was aware of him as a kid because I read an article in a Baseball Digest about him. And, I was like, I don't know, 11, 12 years old. I'm a Cub fan. I'm devouring everything I can about baseball history at this time, reading every baseball book. And there's Riggs Stephenson, one of the greatest Cub hitters ever. I'm thinking, I've never heard of this guy. And so I read the article and was like, oh, wow, And so I can talk to Cub fans and talk about Riggs Stephenson. Who's he? Well, only one of the greatest Cub hitters ever that nobody's ever heard of.
I
But
love it. I'm gonna find something to him and I'm gonna put him up somewhere.
yeah,
I'm gonna
and
put him in the back somewhere here.
you read so many stories about players in those days when they retired, because baseball players weren't highly educated, and very few of them went to college. A lot of them were off the farm, and a lot of them had really difficult times making it life after baseball. Some did great. Ty Cobb did great. He invested with Coca-Cola
Oh
and
yeah.
became a millionaire. Um, but you have all these Grover Cleveland Alexanders and um, oh, what's his name? The catcher who had such a hard time, Mickey Cochran.
Oh
These
really?
uh, Joe Jackson. He had a hard time after retirement. He had that stigma too. So I think it's really cool when you read about one of these players from the early years of baseball that got out and actually continued to do
Oh yeah.
something at a high level in a different field.
And baseball, these guys laid the groundwork for what was to come and the kind of lifestyles that the players today enjoy. And I like how baseball, even back in the 70s, would have the guys from the 50s come back and honor them and keep that, stories going. And Man, Vince, that was great. I absolutely that right there. That the Dave Kingman and that one, that's my favorite too, right there. They were great.
Thank you. I thought your favorite would be the BB Richards one, but
Well, yeah, that was good too. That was good too.
uh, well, I have an Upper Deck 1990 edition. Nice foil package. This
Yes.
this this is premium for Vince. So, what are you opening?
This is top notch. Well, we're in the same time zone. I'm opening 91 top stadium clubs. So we've got a lot of real nice picture cards coming in this one. You want to go first because that set has Upper Deck did a great job with some of their photography in those pictures on those cards.
Oh,
Oh, you're opening them so delicately. You're holding the
cards have been in here for almost 35 years, unmolested, and now I'm pulling them out. And I see Brad Holman for the Mariners, who looks just like Matt
yes,
Gates.
I don't.
And then I like the back of the card. I like the pictures in the back. Isn't that awesome?
Oh yeah, the best, the best.
Uh, Don Paul, Donn. I've never heard of him.
I just
Played
seen
for
his
the
name
White
before.
Sox.
I don't know much about.
Brad Kaminsky, I remember him. Played for the
Yes.
Indians. Hey, we had
Great
him last
picture.
week. Former Cub Mel Hall.
Oh,
Yeah, here's a picture on the back. Yeah. Let's
yeah.
see.
He's very athletic.
17 home runs that year for the Yankees. Very good season. I have a Hall of Famer. Cal Ripken Jr.
I love that picture too. Great picture.
Cubs color man and a great left-hander. Jim, two silhouettes on Deshays.
Look at that knee coming up. That's a Juan Marichal style right there.
What? What's this? Cardinal Chris Carpenter.
There was two Chris Carpenters. There were two. There was the one that came up from Toronto, and then there was this guy who was, he had a cup of coffee in the big leagues.
Yeah, I don't remember him. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Very good pitcher for the Expos, Bryn Smith.
Oh yeah, real good friends with Giddy Lee from the band Rush.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I have an Angels hologram sticker.
Yeah. Very nice.
Very, very cool. That former Michigan quarterback, All-American quarterback, Rick Leach.
Oh, yes.
Had him a few weeks ago. Mickey Weston. I was president of his fan club. Oh, I don't know who he is.
How many members?
Me. Former University of Missouri quarterback, Phil Bradley.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
Former closer for the Orioles and the Mets, Don Ossie.
Oh, yes. Top of the alphabet.
Former pitcher for he pitched for the Phillies. I'm trying to think of who else he pitched for. Jason Grimsley.
I couldn't tell. Maybe Orioles. Maybe he was an Oriole.
Yeah, I'm thinking that. Oh, this was a very good hitter. He played for the Reds. He played for the Yankees. Hal Morris.
Yes, very good player.
Oh my gosh. And here's the kid, Ken Griffey Jr.
Look at that smile.
At this picture on the back. Look at that smile.
Oh, yeah. He had to be 20 years old there, I think.
That's a great commercial that they've got going on right now with him and his wife and the umpire. That's awesome.
Kicking the leaves back in his yard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Great.
Vince, let's be honest. I have the worst luck of all. I am Schleprock from the Flintstones. All right, I want to show you this
Schleprock reference. Wow.
Yeah. Pat Ryan, if you're out there somewhere, you probably enjoyed that one. All right. I look at this Stadium Club, Tops, 1991. What I didn't realize, here's the first card, Vince, and I swear I did not know this. This is let me find somebody I recognize here. All right. This is Kevin Porter. Does that name ring a bell? Probably not, because he played for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh
These are
my
football
God.
cards, Vince. These are football cards. They see me coming. Oh my God. I thought, hey, I'll buy some of these stadium cards. Well, I didn't know they were football cards. Look at that. Oh, man, what a ripoff. Golly. Oh, here's one for you. I got to see this guy play. I've only been to like 3 NFL games. Mark Rippon from the Redskins right there. Look at him drop it back. How about that? So we're doing football cards. How about that? Well, maybe I'll get somebody big or Earl Campbell or somebody like that. I don't even know what team. This is Green Bay. It looks like Scott Steven. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be opening soccer cards, okay? So enjoy this while you can. Golly. Minnesota Viking, Anthony Carter.
Hey,
Yeah, that rings a bell. Look at that. That's probably a 15-cent card right there. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Well, that ain't even a pro. This is college football. Look at that. It's Nebraska. Man, Vince, I can't even get a pack of pro players. Oh, what a ripoff. Let's see who is. I don't even know who that is. I can't. Oh, Chicago Bear. Oh, Sean Gale. Does that name ring a bell? Chicago Bear, Sean Gale. How about
wasn't he a
that?
defensive back?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it doesn't say. I don't trust his cards anyway. What the heck? And a Ram. I remember this name. I couldn't tell you a thing about him. Flipper Anderson. Look at that.
Oh,
That's the
wide
old,
receiver.
yeah, look at that right there. He's probably looking at the ref, seeing if he's over, offsides right there. How about that?
He had a game where he had like 300 yards receiving. I remember that.
How about that? I'll be darned.
He had one huge game.
Flipper Anderson. When's the last time you heard that name? Flipper Anderson. I need a cool nickname. I want to be Flipper Jackson. Here we go. This guy might be a Hall of Famer here. Leroy Butler from the Packers. All right, there, the Cheeseheads. I don't know. Leroy Butler. And the final one, Seattle Seahawk, Tommy Kane. Right there. All right, go Tommy Kane.
I love football, and I remember some players, but I never geeked out on it like baseball.
No. Did you have a favorite football player? While we were opening cards, did you have an all-time favorite football player that you just loved?
I really like Joe. The year that the Cardinals moved to Arizona, the football Cardinals moved to Arizona, I moved to Kansas City. So I adopted the Chiefs. And then a few years later, they got Joe Montana. So at that time, Joe Montana was about my favorite player. When I was a kid, I liked the football Cardinals, and I really liked Mel Gray, the wide receiver, all-pro wide receiver. And I went to see Dan Dierdorf once in a mall, he was showing up at the mall and everything. So I liked him. So I liked Lyle Alzado because he was mean and I wasn't.
He was very mean.
So, yeah, I wish I could be that mean on a football field, but
Earl Campbell for me. He had the biggest thighs I ever seen. He'd run people over. They'd rip his jersey off. He'd take the whole team on. And I think the Oilers' offense was power right, power left. Hand it to Earl. He'd get you 3 to 5 yards the hard way. But Earl Campbell was something special, man. That guy, whoo, something else. Sorry, Vince. I did not know they were football cards. I'm going to have to look a little closer next time. Golly.
Well, I hope some of you people who are football fans enjoyed that walk down memory lane, that unexpected walk down memory lane. And next week, we'll be back with our next episode. I'm your host, Vince, and my co-host, Schleprock. If you don't know who Schleprock is, boy, your Saturday morning cartoon time in the 70s was lacking. So
the golden age.
The golden age. Well, JJ, thank you.
Thank you,
Let's
Vince.
go. Let's go with the finish of the playoffs. And I guess by the time we get back here, we'll know who's in the World Series.
Oh, it's getting good.
Awesome, JJ. You have a good one.
You too, Vince.